Hi, everybody. Welcome to the hour with the OP. This is something we used to do on the calendar, and then it kind of phased it out, and then it was requested that we bring it back. So I said, sure. So I don't have any sort of specific topic. It's open forum, so if you have questions for me, I am Gabe. So you can. And yes, if you have a broker question, I can put that hat on while I'm here. Yes, Angela.
I do.
Okay.
But this one is about the OP. Yesterday in Ignite, we were talking about the ability for Keller Williams to hold back the HST or income tax for us from commissions. And it occurred to me where the HST is mandatory. Why don't you automatically keep the HST on commissions period and submit it?
Because some agents prefer to keep their HST themselves and they'll remit it themselves. So we're just holding it because some people find it hard to save that in a separate account. So what we always recommend is that you have a separate account for your HST and your income tax so that you're pulling that off your commissions as you go through the year. But some people find it really hard to do that. If you're really good at doing that yourself and you're financially able to put those things aside and not spend them, great. We have agents that do that. But some agents find that a challenge. And then when it comes around time to file and, CRA doesn't go away, so they'll find you. So we have had agents find that a challenge. So that's just an extra service that we offer. It's not something we have to do. It's not mandatory, but because you're independent contractors, you're not employees, you're expected to do that yourself. It's just a service that we provide at the brokerage level because we felt it was something that agents would find valuable.
Not all companies do that.
Not all companies do that. No.
That's very open things.
Yeah. So that's the answer.
Some brokers do not treat their agents as employees, so in that case, would they?
Typically, no, that would be a very old model.
Right.
Like you'd be talking like 40 years ago,
Right.
back when like you might have seen a brokerage model where it was an employee relationship. It would be hard for us to find one now.
Okay.
If there are any still in existence, I'm not aware of them.
Right.
It would be like very rural. Yeah, you would find something like that, but
Right.
yeah. No, typically everybody operates now as with the independent contractor model. Yeah. Yeah. Question. What else you got for me?
Mine's really a broker one though. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so if we do a referral, so for a property, and the property is say Lunenburg, and when I do the referral, I just emailed in the form. I didn't create an opportunity and follow that process. But the property gets sold. How do you know? How does the process finish? Like, how do you know the property that I referred was sold in Lunenburg?
So typically, was it a listing referral?
Yep,
Okay, so typically you'd have a communication with the agent that you referred it to.
I did.
So the easiest way to do that is to check in with them and like ask for an update on the status of the property. Did it sell?
Yes.
When's it set to close?
Get the referral.
And then the right? See? So then once you have that information,
And he's with Keller Williams.
Yeah.
In the Lunenburg office, right?
yeah, so when the property so you submitted the referral form, right? You signed it and he signed it,
Correct.
stating what, the client's details, what the referral fee was
Yeah.
gonna be. That gets submitted to the office
Correct.
and then it should be on his end. In his opportunity, he has to submit the referral form with his trade record, and your trade record has to reflect the referral. So when you're filling out your trade record, so say if it was a 25% referral, then you're gonna, on the part where it says referral, you're gonna put, Angela Curran, 25% referral, Keller Williams Select Realty on your trade record. It's easy when it's in-house, by the way, because
Can I
with
ask
this,
them if he did it in advance? I don't want to.
no, you don't have to ask. You can ask if you want to. But as long as you have the signed referral form, that's the most important thing. And that's one thing I will caution any of you who are newer in the industry. If you're sending and referrals, please do your referral form, because if you don't do the referral form and the referral doesn't get paid, we don't have any paperwork on it, so there's nothing we can do. In Ontario specifically, they are required to have a signed referral form, so anything that comes from Ontario, you'll get like a OREA referral form coming from them. We don't have one for Nova Scotia, so you just use your KW Select referral form when you're sending it out, but just make sure that it's a very quick, easy thing to do, but sometimes you forget to do it, and I tell you, I learned that lesson myself and forgot to do the referral form, and the referral didn't get paid, and lesson learned, right? Now, some agents, you know, if you've got a decent relationship with the agent you're referring to, may still have honored that referral, but without the form, there's no proof that that changed hands. So just make sure that you're always getting your referral form signed and completed and all of that. So that is good. Agents inside our brokerage. Agents outside our brokerage, yeah. Yeah, so it's really easy, like I said, when it's within KW Select, because it's all under one brokerage. But yes, sending to other KWs across Canada or the US or even worldwide. With the worldwide referrals, we've been finding that they take time to come through, because then you're crossing international borders. Canada to US is very easy. But once we kind of get out of the US and we get into some of the international countries, there can be some extra hoops that you have to jump through as far as the referral, because you've got money crossing international borders, but you can get referrals on properties sold in other countries. And we've had agents in our office here who have done that. And, you know, people have bought vacation properties down south, like clients have gone to warmer climates where there's no piles of snow, and and we've had agents get referrals benefit from that. Yeah, and it's one of the things too. Any of you who are going to family reunion or when we have conferences, the plan is to have another Atlantic Canadian training event like we did here in October. October or September? My God, September. It's the end of September. We're gonna do that again in September. This year it'll be in New Brunswick and Moncton, so they'll be the host market center. And again, those types of training events are really beneficial to build those networking referral relationships, because you get to meet the agents from New Brunswick and Newfoundland and here, and we tend, even just amongst Atlantic Canada, we have a lot of referrals back and forth just amongst our three market centers, which is lovely.
Yeah.
But it's nice to, you know, be able to actually meet the person and like, yeah, have a face to the name kind of thing. So something that I always recommend is you have the opportunity to partake in some of those training events that we do on the kind of larger KW scale, to make sure you take advantage of that kind of networking referral building opportunity.
Because when I met other brokerages, like what if it's a different, not a KW brokerage, that works with that too.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I have had people refer things to me from other, like, and I'm like, wow, right, use your own brokerage.
Yeah.
I'll take it, right?
Yeah.
So I just,
Absolutely.
and that's the, they're like, you know, just send me the form, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm using mine, like, hopefully that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can use the form with other brokerages too. Doesn't have to be Keller Williams. Yeah. And what's next? Anybody online have any questions? No? Okay.
John, maybe the question is gonna be relevant to what's going on. I was just wondering, it's more like an investment point of view, like, if I want to invest in myself as a buyer agent, what does Keller Williams offer from that? Like, could I represent the buyer side and get commission that way, or how does that work?
For buyer referrals?
No, like myself, say if I want to buy a property,
Yeah.
could I represent myself as the buyer side and then get commission? How does that work?
Okay, so that's a bit of a loaded question. So the question was, I'm just gonna repeat it so online you guys can hear. Can you represent yourself as a buyer of a property and earn a referral that way? So no, there wouldn't be a referral, but commission, yes. What I will caution you on is if you represent yourself, you are not covered by your E&O insurance.
Yeah.
So if you represent yourself as a buyer, so if you're gonna buy a property for yourself, E&O is not gonna cover you for that. Now, on the buy side, you know, you can still get the commission from that perspective. On the listing side, it's from my perspective, from wearing my broker hat more so than my OP hat, that's much more risky. It's the same thing. If you represent yourself as a seller, as the listing agent, your E&O won't cover you.
Okay.
So what we recommend in that situation is that you refer or organize some sort of arrangement with a colleague in the office, a friend in the office to list the property for you so that you're not the actual listing agent and then they're covered by the E&O. And the nice thing about Keller Williams is we do want you to invest in real estate and build your wealth in investments. So we do offer as part of your pros, I guess, of being part of the brokerage is that you get one buy and one sell per year, where you don't have to charge a commission. So you could do it, you'd just be charged your cap fee. In saying that it has to be a personal property, so you need to be on title and you need to be on the agreement. So if it's, you know, another family member and you're not on the deal, then no go. It has to be personally for you. And that's, again, one of the benefits because we want to see people build wealth through property. So whether it's personal property, vacation property, and investment property, if it comes through our brokerage, that's one of the perks. But I will, again, caution that we highly recommend you do not represent yourself. You organize amongst yourselves to have someone else rep you as a buyer or a seller because you want to make sure you're covered by E&O. And I will tell you that we have had some E&O claims that have been very substantial, not just the brokerage, but the province agents, E&O claims amongst the industry in the province of Nova Scotia, as is the rest of Canada, are up significantly over the last 2-3 years. So people tend to be a little more litigious and more complaint driven now, more so than ever. So E&O is not something to just take very, you know, lightly. It's a very important thing to consider to make sure that you've got that coverage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are tens or hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's not worth the risk. And we've seen, you know, many agents in the office have bought and sold personal property, and they've had a friend or colleague here in the office they've made an agreement, and that's up to you guys to work out what you want to do. We won't dictate that, but you know, some people do a very nominal referral fee. Some people do I'll do one for you, you do one for me, and it's just an even trade. So, you know, the sky's the limit as far as how you can structure that. But it's if you need someone to help with that, if you don't have a colleague or someone that you would be comfortable to reach out, just let one of the brokers know. We can try to help you pair up. But most everybody, if you reach out to someone else in the office and say, can you help me out with this? They're going to help you because that's the culture of our office, right?
So it can't like international as well, as long as there's a market center there, should be fine. Or fine.
We can't do anything in and out of province, no, because it has to come through our office. Yeah. Yes, we can't dictate what another market center does, right?
Why do you think the claims are off the last few years?
I think that there's been a lot of negativity in the media, and I think that's part of it, about the housing market and pricing. And, during kind of the COVID craziness, when people were buying sight unseen or buying without doing proper inspections, due diligence, that tends to be what the issue is that a lot of those claims that have come in the last 2 years is because people didn't do inspections, waived inspections, and then found XYZ in the property and then feel that they were wronged somehow, right?
They have reason for something, wait,
Well, and that's how it's playing out now. I can tell you, we do currently have a claim within our own brokerage where a consumer purchased a property, waived their inspection. It was during this COVID craziness. They had found something after they moved in, and that's the basis of the complaint or the case. Our agent had them sign their KW waiver. And so they were fully informed that they had the ability and the right to put their inspection in, and they chose not to, and they signed that document. So we're very curious and optimistic as to how that's going to play out, because this is going to be the first time that this has kind of gone through the process where we've had this happen and we've had the waiver in place. So once we kind of get to the end of that and we know how it plays out, we'll share it with everybody, but I can't share any more than that at this point. But yeah, so, and that's the whole reason that Anne came up with the waiver, because we years ago used to have just a kind of very simple waiver clause that you could pull out of web forms.
Yeah.
And that was good to have, but it wasn't as in-depth as the one we have now. And yeah, so it's interesting. It's good. We'll see. The whole idea was to protect you guys, the agents, right? So we're gonna get to see how that plays out.
That's really interesting, Melissa, to know that the first KW acknowledgement form, because that should, like, do any other brokerages have an acknowledgement form like that? Or is it, I know the forms committee person, so we're proactive because of Anne.
Yeah, that was something that Anne came up with the help of the broker team. So to my knowledge, nobody has anything quite like ours. I know that there are other brokerages that have waivers. Like I said, there used to be a very generic clause in web forms that you could pull out and use. But nothing quite as specific, as detailed as ours that I'm aware of.
Thank you very much. That's
You're
awesome.
One of the other things, does anybody else have any other questions before I switch topics?
I do.
Yeah.
Based on the question, relating to commissions, if you've capped, how does it work if it's an immediate family member? Can you waive your commission?
No. No, you can't do a zero commission. So the only,
So has that changed?
no. The only time you can have a zero commission is if it's a personal property where you are specifically named on the deal. Or if you're buying it as your corporation, you are a listed director of the corporation.
So then from a broker's point of view, if you had your name, say it was a child, and you had your name on the agreement of purchase and sale, your name, so Janice Chang and or assignee and child's name, on closing, could that name be removed and the commission be put off?
No, because you have to be untitled too. So if you're just doing it to avoid commission, then no.
Okay, I'll ask more in-depth questions after. because
Okay.
You've got a very specific.
Okay,
situation.
yes,
Yeah,
I can tell your wheels are
Yeah,
turning.
I know. But
She's
this
not-
works, this worked before, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't done on any transaction I had,
Yeah,
but I was part of the transaction, so I
okay.
know it went through.
Okay.
I'll ask a little.
You'll have to ask me after.
I just assumed Janice Ching is such a giving person. She's looking to buy her kids houses.
No, we should all join Janice's family, shouldn't we? We're all gonna get a house.
My kids would love that too, Stina.
Well, you are just such a kind, giving person. I was like, where's Janice going with this? Is she trying to buy her kids houses?
This is funny. Too funny. Any other questions? In the chat, see? No? One of the things that I will, bring up is we chatted a little bit about it in the fall. For those of you who might follow the American news or Inman, which is the real estate publication that comes out of the States that is kind of like the who and what of what's going on in the industry. So there was a most recent article in Inman about the commission case in Missouri. So for those that maybe haven't been paying attention, there was a large, it ended up being like a class action lawsuit in Missouri against basically four or five large brokerages in the US. And it was around commission and that the realtors in that state were fixing commissions and that they were making the sale of property anti-competitive. So I spoke a little bit about this in the fall because it came out in the media when the case was happening. And Keller Williams was one of the brokerages that was named in the suit. And we had our leadership, Gary Keller and Mark King, testified in the case on behalf of the agents there and for the industry, that at no time did agents collude to make a fixed commission rate. And that they were never instructed to do that within any training or within the brokerage. So they had in the fall, I think it was in the fall, shortly after that, Remax was one of the other major brokerages that was part of that, as was Anywhere and Reology, which are all American brands. They chose to settle. Keller Williams chose not to settle and continue to push on because Gary Keller was adamant that they had a strong case. In the end, the jury did side with the plaintiffs. So KW was going to appeal, as was the National Association of Realtors, who was also me. They're basically like similar to like Korea for us, right, in Canada. Anyway, the reason I bring it up is that if you have been following the news, you will have seen in Inman in the last week that KW did decide to settle that case rather than take it to trial further. And the reasoning behind that was that Gary Keller felt that it was a much stronger resolution for the agents to know that we weren't going to have to deal with that over the next 3 to 5 years is what they were expecting for that to roll through the courts, the appeal court and make it through. So they did settle it. And part of that settlement is that there will be some changes to training materials where you'll see that commissions are negotiable, which we've always known that in Canada because we've had the Competition Act here, and we had, for those of you who've been in the business for a long time, like, okay, I put a little bit on Elizabeth's thumb. A little bit of time. Five, a little bit of time, yeah, since birth, really, yeah. You'll remember we had the whole thing with the competition board many years ago now, what it seems many years ago, where that was when they allowed your postings to come in here. So mere postings are when you go on Paragon and you see this is a mere posting, seller reserves the right to sell their property themselves and the commission is $1 and you have to call the seller directly, right? That was a result of our competition bureau saying that realtors had a monopoly on the MLS system, which is similar. There's some parallels in what we went through years ago here in Canada to what's kind of happening in the States right now. Every state is a little bit different. They all kind of govern differently. They have different rules and regulations for their respective boards down there. So anyway, it's just interesting to see kind of those parallels. We already allow mirror postings in our MLS, and that's something across Canada and have been for years. So that's why, you know, when you see that on our MLS, that was why that happened. CREA did lobby very hard for agents at the time about that. They wanted, and but that was the result of, you know, what happened there. So, you know, our agents in Canada have known, you know, that a seller can put a property on MLS and doesn't have to hire an agent. And you've seen different brokerage models evolve from that, right? Where you have flat fee or you have a different percentage of listing commission based on the level of service you're going to get versus, you know, what I would describe us as a full service brokerage, right? Versus, you know, you've got other models that maybe aren't full service. And then you've got something over here that's completely different where it's basically a for sale by owner on MLS, which is what we call mirror posting. So it's interesting watching it unfold in the US. And we don't have any updates on that case other than the settlement being announced. And as kind of things evolve, we'll update you on that. But yeah, that's the update for that one.
As realtors, when our clients ask me, you know, well, what's typical commission? What's the commission rate these weeks?
Yeah.
What is their answers? I always say it's negotiable. Every agent can charge whatever they want.
That's right. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
You got it. So I don't know if you online heard Shelley's answer, but she said, what do we say when, you know, a seller asks, what's the going commission rate these days? You know, what's commission going for? And she responds and says, well, commission's negotiable. Every agent can charge what they want. And that's exactly what I would tell you to say.
Okay.
And that's what's kind of come out of that case is commissions are negotiable. It's up to each individual agent what they're going to charge and up to each individual brokerage what they're going to charge. So a brokerage itself can mandate a minimum commission level, right? But agents, if all of us in this room started to say, well, we're all going to charge X%, that we can't do that, right? So that wording that I would say is a big red flag to avoid is like a standard commission rate. We cannot say anything like that because there is no standard commission rate. Commission rates are negotiable, and you're going to find that with different brokerage models, you're going to see different offerings. So you might have a very basic service offering and a middle of the road and then a full service. And everybody's going to present what they offer and what you're going to get for service for those things. And that's when we dealt with this, when the mirror postings first came out, we had a lot of conversations around this because agents were unsure of how to answer the questions and at the time weren't sure how to demonstrate their value. So we did a lot of talk around, you know, explaining your unique value proposition and what you bring to the table and making sure that you're practicing that. So if you're not quite comfortable with having that conversation with the seller, then team up with a friend in the office and do some script or role play practicing. And if you've been through the BOLD course, we did this in BOLD. Ignite has a bit of it as well. And that sort of role playing really does help you get more confident if you're feeling a little bit unsure of how to have that conversation with the seller. And if you've already practiced it with a colleague or a friend in the office, it helps you build that confidence to have the conversation very securely and feel good about it. But the most important thing I would say is you want to make sure that you explain what it is you have to offer and what it is you're going to do. And if, in your case, you're part of a team, so what your team brings to the table,
Right.
and how you as a member of that team are going to bring value to them.
Right.
And then you go into your, that's all part of your presentation, right? And,
Gotcha.
it's very, we didn't have a difficult time explaining that to people when the home year posting thing came in, and that was a big change in the industry when that happened. And a lot of people were unsure of how it was gonna play out. And what's interesting is when it first came in, you saw quite a few of them at first. There was, I would say there was quite a few of them that initially, but kind of as time went on, you started to see some of those decide to switch to a full service brokerage because the seller didn't realize how much work it was gonna be, right? And so, they were like, well, I don't wanna be booking showings and talking to all these other agents and people, and I don't wanna do all that. So then, it was interesting to watch that evolution kind of happen. Yeah, so, and you'll still see some of your postings on the system even now, right? But
Are sellers directly doing that?
some of them are,
Okay.
some of them are, and then some you have, there have been kind of other brokerage models evolved out of that, so
Right.
they could be like a mere posting, but they actually do have agency with the brokerage, so like the PG Direct one is what I'll speak of as like a specific example where it looks on the face of it like it's a mere posting, but they do actually have agency because they're a brokerage, right? So if you run into that one's a little bit different. Give the brokers a call and they'll walk you through because that one's a little bit unique to the others. But yeah.
How do like regular everyday Joes get access to the MLS? Give them a login and password it out.
So it's a brokerage, right? So a brokerage will post the listing for them.
Right, for the people that don't have agency.
Cute dog, Dennis.
So they get on through a brokerage. It's just that brokerage is choosing not to charge a commission or charge some sort of other, they have some sort of other structure.
Oh, okay, so
But they're not offering
a brokerage and stuff, so it's not like just, Joe Blow down the street can just go on MLS and put it in.
Exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
So can somebody walk in here and say, I'd like to list my home privately?
No, we're a full service brokerage. We don't take your postings.
So they have to go to a specific place that does.
Yeah, we're a full service brokerage.
I'd be happy to represent you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
My negotiable commission.
I know, I'm gonna have to think about that, because I'm gonna maybe to reword them a little.
Yeah, and like I said, as we
Especially with what's happening, right?
as we move through, the next few months, we're being told that there'll be some adjustments to some of the training materials and there'll be training coming out for the whole company around that, because obviously that's something that, although it's specific to this state, it's Missouri, where it's happening. It does affect other states, and it's not a bad thing for us to all, learn from the experience and improve how we're explaining our value in our industry, right?
Yeah, I know, I'll just have to think about what the word is, because you did just kind of just say it,
Yeah,
kind of rolls out. But yeah, I will, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Dennis had his hand up.
yes, Dennis.
We'd mentioned this last time. Do we have a minimum percentage as a brokerage?
Yeah, typically if you have less than 2% on the street, which we call like a cooperating brokerage, you'll likely get a call from the broker team asking why.
Okay, what about it to us?
To us, there wouldn't be, It would be very situational dependent, but
Okay.
it would be, yeah. So you'd have to speak to the broker team or myself if you were gonna be doing something really unusually different.
No, I was just curious. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Typically, when the admin or the brokers see something that's really odd, they'll flag it and then they'll ask, what's going on? Why is this? Did you make a mistake?
Yeah, does
Yeah.
that mean so if it's 2% to the street, right? You see that a lot in the listing, 2% to home.
Yeah.
Does that mean that it's 2.5 on this side and 2 on that side, so it's 4.5%?
It could be,
They could be taking 3.
yep,
They could be taking 4.
it could be, yeah.
So if a client says, and they ask me, right, and they'll say, look, with the value of homes today, what are you people charging for commissions? What do you say? Everybody charges. So everybody charges their own, so they'll say, okay, does that mean you can charge me 2%? So that would be 1 and 1.
Right, and the answer to that would be, no, I'm not a discount broker. I'm not part of a discount brokerage, I'm part of a full service brokerage. And here's why I provide this value to you,
Right.
X,
So,
Y, Z, right? So my commission rate is
but you also
whatever, 5%,
understand.
whatever it is,
Okay.
4%, 6%, 8%, whatever you want to charge.
So, because you know what, I guess what you wouldn't want to see happen is somebody going out there and saying, I'm gonna do it for 3% when you're doing it for 4.5 and 5, and you're undercutting.
Correct,
They do.
yeah,
They do.
They do when you're negotiating and you're in competition for a listing.
Yep,
Yeah.
they do.
Well, the other agent told me they would do it for this much.
Oh, yeah, they tell
When
you.
you do it for that?
Yeah.
If I get the listing, darn toof, I'll do it for that.
yeah.
Right, depending on what
It
it is.
depends on what it is, right? So then it comes down to to the client, and then it comes down to your own, personal business decision, right? And what you feel comfortable with. If the seller's trying to beat you up on commission and pinning you against another agent and also wants to overprice the house, is that
Doing you a favor.
right? Is that something you want to
Yeah.
get? Is
Yeah.
that something you want to entertain, right? And that's a personal business decision. So
Yeah.
that's up to you whether that's a yes or no for you, right?
But we don't say as an industry, you don't use the standard commission is 5%.
Can't say that, no. No.
I won't say that.
Coach Kate would tell you to say, if they say the other agent is, gonna do it for this or whatever, she'll tell you to say, well, it sounds to me like you want to have save the most amount of money or net the most amount of money in your
That's right.
pocket. By doing that with me, I'm gonna get you more for your house, I'm gonna sell it quicker, and in your pocket, you'll have just as much money.
Exactly.
That's what Coach Kate would do.
She just regurgitated her whole script and I love it. So yes, and that's a perfect example, and that's a script that we cover in bold. You'll find them all similar scripts. Also, Ignite is running now. So if you haven't taken Ignite or you want a refresher on sort of basics, I highly recommend you pop into the Ignite sessions. They're great. And this kind of discussion comes up in that environment as well. There is a toolkit in Ignite that has scripts. You'll also find scripts on Connect, on your KW Connect. Also, James Shaw was doing scripts in the mornings on Facebook. I don't think he's doing them as frequently now, but he does still have like a script group. So there's lots of opportunity. Max Coaching, James Shaw is through Max Coaching. So like Max offers that as something you can do, and it's all online. Our own productivity coach, Colin, can help you with scripts too if you're in the coaching program. But yes, and exactly when you run into that situation where someone's trying to leverage what somebody else has agreed to do, that's exactly what you do. You have to flip into that narrative where it's, exactly that. It sounds to me like you're saying that you want to net the most money, So if you want to net the most money, it doesn't matter what commission rate I charge, I'm going to negotiate for you and net you the most money, and at the end of the day, isn't that what's most important? Right, what you end up with in your pocket. Not that they're gonna charge you 0.5% less than I'm gonna charge you, because at the end of the day, you're gonna net more with me, right? So some of that, for those of you who have been in the business, knowing your stats too, if you know your stats, and know that your list to sale price ratio is high. Now, you can use board stats, you can use office stats as well, but, in the last 2 years, because the market has been so strong and our prices have stayed high, list to sale price ratio is still very high, right? So years ago, before this craziness, you could use all that stat to your advantage in a presentation, because we found that our KW crew typically had a much higher list to sale price ratio than the board. So you could use that and say, well, ours is 98% and the board's at 95.
Yeah.
So
Right, yeah.
we're gonna get you more money at the end of the day. Now, those stats are a little bit harder to use
Yeah,
in that way because of the board stats being so high,
yeah,
right? Because everybody's are,
Yeah.
and we had so much of the over ask, so that, you had over 100% as a stat, which, was something we never thought would happen in Halifax 5 years ago. And here we are. So, but yeah, that's exactly how to handle that objection. We call those seller objections, and that's one of the main ones is that comes off as commission rate. And some people find that it's beneficial for them to just address that head on. It depends on what your personality type is and what personality type you're dealing with is. And if you get into the DISC profiles at all, which we've done, it depends on if you're dealing with a D, an I, an S, or a C, kind of how you might want to approach that. But yeah, that's the way to deal with that is knowing your script and knowing your value and being able to demonstrate that to them. Yeah. And there are there was another script class on Facebook too, another Facebook group. Might have been a bold group now that I think about it, also that they practice scripts. Yeah. Awesome.
Starting to see 1.5%. From a full service broker.
Yeah.
So that kind of.
We have to be very careful how we comment on that though, don't we?
How do we get our market center stats?
So we release our stats compared to the board stats in our monthly meeting. So the language of real estate, we call it
Yes.
lore. So when Erin does that graph, you'll see she's got the board stats and our stats pulled every month. Yeah. Yeah. So you'll see like our, when we compare like our average sales.
And your slides of like the last.
Yeah, the slide, usually the slides.
Yeah, look at it, because I saved them, like just go back. My memory's bad, I save everything.
Oh, my God, I know.
Yeah, I know. Google Drive is my friend.
Oh, yeah.
It goes in my Google Drive. Any other questions around that? No?
I've got a random question. This is, and I came across some EXP realtors at NSAR Day, and I asked them. I've never done a deal with an EXP on the other side of the deal, whether listing or selling, or listing or buying, selling or buying. I asked the guy from EXP, if they don't have a physical location, where does my buyer client drop off a deposit check? And
Yeah.
you give it, the agent gives it to him. He's like, or you can get your buyer to give it to him. I'm like, hell no, that's not happening. I'm not getting my buyer to come in hand deliver you the check.
Yeah.
and then they will scan it and then write you a receipt of funds. But I know like some of my elderly clients would want to go into a physical location to give the deposit check.
There is one.
There is?
Yeah, but it's down at Purdy's Wharf and it's a pain in the butt. And it's only Sandy that's in there. He's never there, and he gives the check to two women that are at the front that don't work for EXP.
Oh, okay, but there is a place where, because I'm just taking the broker class, and I don't know if I want to physically take the check myself and give it to the salesperson myself. Like, I like that it's done through the brokerage, right? So
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Stina. So it gives you more confidence to know that you're taking it into a physical office space where it's going to be received and you're going to get the proper receipt and everything.
yeah, they give it, if let's say my client gives it to me, my buyer client gives me the check on like a Friday, like now I got to go and hunt down this other agent.
Correct. Yeah. So technically from the broker rules perspective, if you're dealing with like a physical check, deposit check, as long as it's received by the brokerage or the brokerage representative by your condition deadline for the deposit, then that is considered received on time. So in your situation, say you have your elderly client and she has the check and she gives it to you and the deadline's Friday, right? At 5, then yes, you've got to physically either get it to their office or into the hand of the brokerage representative for that office. So
The hand of the salesperson. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So in that case, that is still acceptable because the brokerage has received it as a representative of the brokerage has received it. But
Is there something physical that I need, like when I hand over the check, like to the guy, to the salesperson?
yeah, typically I would ask for like an email or a text message or like a photo of the check with a text message or an email or something just to show that.
Okay, maybe that's what I do. A photo and then text message here. This is me handing it to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Silly question, but I just never come across it yet, and I've always wondered that. I'm like, how does that work?
Janice is just saying they could also bring it here, and yes, that is correct. You'd have to have that in your agreement, right?
Yeah.
There a few years ago, there was a particular brokerage in the city who was having issues with their trust account.
Oh, yes.
And issues being that they had taken some money from their trust account. So we made the decision as a brokerage that we were not comfortable sending our clients deposit checks to said brokerage. And so we asked all of our agents to write on their agreement of purchase and sale that the deposits were to be held with Keller Williams Select Realty, even though we weren't the listing agent. So, which created extra work on our end because we then had trust money for listings that weren't our listings, but the decision was made because we felt more comfortable knowing that our consumers were protected, that we had control over their trust money versus sending it to somewhere where we weren't as confident at that time. So, so yes, you can actually stipulate on your agreement of purchase and sale. That's why that blank is there now. It used to always just be a boilerplate went to listing brokerage in our previous agreements, but the blank is there so that you can actually specifically say where it's going. So if you say wanted to hold it here, you could do that. The other option with the blank is it can be also held with the seller's lawyer in their trust account. And when it's a mere posting, that's typically where it goes. It either comes here or it goes to the seller's lawyer's trust account. And often you'll find with sellers, like a for sale by owner seller, they typically want it held at their lawyer's office rather than in our trust account. They'll usually ask you to switch that if you have it the other way. But that's why there's a blank there now. So you can make that choice after you've had that discussion with the client, what the client wants to do. normal procedure is that it does go to the listing brokerage because it's meant to show a sign of good faith and seriousness in the purchase of the property. And if the listing is here, say at KW Select, then normally the deposit comes here. But that it doesn't have to be that way. And that's the reason why I gave you that example, is that that was a very specific incident and time where we decided we didn't want checks going to that particular listing brokerage. They came here, or they went to the seller lawyer. So it's an option. You have a couple options there.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
You're welcome. Janice was laughing at my facial expressions. I didn't.
Said brokerage.
Nice and kind, Val.
We can't speak negatively.
No.
Fellow
I-
members.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Very true.
Any other questions? The only other thing I was gonna ask, for some feedback, if we want to continue with this, I know that, the education committee and the growth committee have been working on topics for sessions. So if you'd like to see like something more specific around profit share or, agent financials or something like that, I can come in with some specific topics, or we can keep it more like an open forum like this, where you can just kind of bring your things and I can kind of bring you what's kind of current. But love to have your feedback so that we can evolve these sessions as we come along. No, thanks for coming.
I know that I personally, Melissa, really enjoy these open forums. So
Me
I,
or you?
I, yeah, no, I personally love having you and anybody off the broker team in to answer just random questions, because they can get pretty interesting. And sometimes there's just no way you could predict what's going to be asked or how it's going to be answered. And I feel like I learned so much in these sessions when it's just an open session, because we can go
Ditto.
anywhere with it. So I'd like to keep going with these sessions, an hour with broker, hour with the OP. Love it. I think it's fantastic.
Just copy and paste what she just said.
You're Sherry. Agreed.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. That's wonderful. And thank you for speaking out. And if any of you have feedback for us and you're not comfortable speaking out or putting it in the chat, please reach out to myself or Janice and let us know so that we can bring you training that you want to see and that you're feeling that you're getting value from. So yeah, we'll continue with the open forum if that's the consensus that everybody enjoys, which we'll keep bringing that for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody online. Good to see you.
Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Don't send my dog. I'm one of here in this building. Oh, that is adorable.